It's now 4 minutes after 7, and it's time for us to get into the newsroom. And you're welcome to participate in this particular, well, throughout the show. And the hashtag for you to do that is KTN Morning Express. Or you can also tweet your comments as we continue with the conversation. It's time for the newsroom. Now, the newsroom is where we introspect and look at some of the work that we have done and whether we have done it well, and maybe areas that we possibly could have improved, of areas we would like to put more focus on. And the devolution conference was opened yesterday by the President of the Republic of Kenya, and this is in Kirinyaga County. So we'd like to look at matters devolution and how it has been covered. So we had the President do that yesterday, and we'll start off with some of the comments that he made during the opening of the conference.
There is now greater appreciation of what can happen in our counties. I heard governors speak here about manufacturing. Manufacturing used to be a big thing by big corporates in US dollars. But today, devolution is telling us that manufacturing can be not about foreigners or white people or people with US dollars. It can also be, and it should actually be, about ordinary people in Kenya shillings, in local places in our counties. And it is my very strong belief that that is the trajectory that will turn around our fortunes in matters manufacturing. What they need is the environment, the infrastructure necessary to facilitate manufacturing in every county. The second item, listening to my friends in this conference, is resources. All of us are discussing about more money. And it is true, because I sit in IBEC, and Governor Oparanya remembers that the last meeting of IBEC, we were unable to agree on sharing money. They wanted more, we had less. And therefore, the animal in the room is that we know what we must do. We know how much it costs, but we do not have the resources. And because of the importance of this conference, it is important for us to think outside the box, to find innovative ways, and to sit down together and find a mechanism of baking a bigger cake so that we can all have more to share.
Must be effective public participation where all stakeholders are engaged and their voices heard. Plans should be made whose fruits can be gauged when we convene once more in a year's time. The conference provides an opportunity for each county to showcase itself, to learn from the successes and challenges of others, to build collaborative networks and synergies with other units, state organs, national agencies, as well as development partners. Every county government should leave Kirinyaga with renewed drive and vigor, as well as something to take back home to your constituents. It is the desire of all of us gathered here today to leverage on the diverse expertise available to move devolution forward for national development. We must keenly listen and learn from each other over the next few days that we are here.
All right, and those are just comments and few things that were said yesterday during the opening of the 6th Devolution Conference. Now, joining me in studio to have this conversation, I'm joined by Dr. Christopher Kisa, who is a lecturer at Daystar University on journalism. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Crispus Onyango, who's a communication consultant. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. We'll also be joined, as we continue with the show, by Elvis Costa, who's one of our reporters who's based in the county and is going to be giving us his experience and possibly challenges that he faces when covering matters devolution. So let me start with you, gentlemen, and I'll start with you, Dr. Kisa. First of all, let's just concentrate on the 6th Devolution Conference. Your thoughts on the coverage so far. There has been, of course, the beginning is the color and all that, but maybe just your thoughts on the coverage so far.
I think the coverage, if you look at what has been coming out, you see a lot of positives. Another thing is that as the coverage has been going on, one of the things that stands out is that the media is doing what it's supposed to be doing in terms of a watchdog for the Mwananchi, what's happening. However, what we have not really seen is the putting to task specific areas where Mwananchi has expected delivery. And one of the salient issues is the issue of health delivery in the grassroots. This conference is happening in the eye of the nurses' strike, and you know this is a devolved function. I have not seen that issue coming out strongly as this conference opens its doors to different governors meeting. We have not seen a story coming out about the good that has happened, say, in County X. I will not be shy to say Makueni has one of the best. The media has brought that out. Remember the agenda-setting role of the media.
Correct.
And doing some good comparison and bringing out the issue. Why can the media put to task the governors? What have you specifically done to make sure that this devolved function of health is being handled properly? Because you can hear the hue and cry from people who are receiving these services that we rather go back to the national government.
Although in regards to the actual conference, the media has no power to dictate how the conference is going to run, the agenda of the conference, or do you mean possibly in the sidelines of the conference whether this is an issue that should have been brought up by the media?
In fact, for a journalist, a good journalist has an agenda. When you're going out there, you can have a sidebar of the main story. You can pull these guys out and you know the story of the day. What is this person you are representing, called the Mwananchi? What is ailing them? Health is a big issue in the grassroots. The media should come out and pin them down, even on the side of the conference.
Okay.
They have the power to do that. Just bring out what is happening, and they can pinpoint some of the counties that are having a major problem, because you can hear, Mike, you see like the certain counties that have resolved that matter. Others have just ignored. Others have just said we are firing the whole medics. So I think it is an obligation of journalists who are there to have a sidebar of this main story.
On those. Okay, Crispus, your opening remarks and your thoughts on how the Devolution Conference, this being the 6th, has been covered so far.
Thank you, Michael. And I think it is a great reunion with my senior here, Dr. Chris, after quite a long time. But I think before I delve into the Devolution Conference, I think I want to say that the toxicity that we're seeing in this country is not healthy. I think it is incumbent upon the political leadership to tone down and ensure that we have a good environment, especially considering the fact that we are just 3 days from celebrating the now famous handshake between the two leading lights in this country. But coming back to the topic of the day, I think I want to say that devolution is actually one of the greatest pillars of the Constitution it is widely celebrated in this country. And when you look at it, I think Kenya is a model country in Africa in terms of devolving the political leadership and resources and even revenue allocation. The conference that is happening in Kirinyaga, which is actually the 6th, there is quite a lot of good things to celebrate about. And I like the way the media has been conducting the entire affair, even doing stories in the run-up to the conference itself. But just like Chris has said, I think much of the things that we've seen coming from the conference and even the stories that are told by the media is quite a lot of negatives. A lot of it actually is on the political front. For instance, when you look at the opening remarks yesterday and the speeches that were made in Kirinyaga yesterday, even taking a look at the local dailies today, it is about President Uhuru Kenyatta responding to the political leadership of the Rift Valley and some fellas there as far as actually corruption is concerned. So there are no tangible stories or let me say development journalism that is coming out of these conferences. And when you look at counties like Makueni and the entire conversation, like Chris has said, on the universal health coverage, how does it tie with the entire conversation of what the national government is trying to do? And as a model county that has been quite successful in terms of taking care of let me say, constituents. How can it be replicated in these other counties? The other thing is, I think looking at counties like Turkana, there are quite a lot of good things that are happening there. Mandera, for instance, quite a number of good stories that are supposed to be told from that.
Okay, but now, maybe just to take you back a little bit to the actual conference which opened yesterday.
Yes.
And as much as we may want to cover the development of the conference and all that, the remarks that the president made are definitely things that we cannot ignore, number one. And number two, it is in the country where people want to know what's happening. The war on corruption, some say, has been politicized. And if those were his opening remarks, then really as a media, what we could do is just cover what he has to say.
Michael, I think we are on the same page. I'm not saying that you totally ignore what he was saying. He was saying, because actually that is a big story. But again, you may want to ask yourself, is it the first time that the head of state is making such kind of remarks as far as corruption is concerned? I think what we needed to do is to try and tell the positive stories of the conference, rather than giving a lot of mileage on what the head of state was saying as far as corruption is concerned. Never mind. When the head of state,
maybe his comments were a positive story, even if we're to look at it from that angle, because he is out to say that his fight against corruption is still on, and he will not be sidelined by other things.
I totally agree with you, but the question is, does it form the banner headline? Because actually, it is not the first time he's saying that. One of his CSs was being grilled at that particular time in somewhere on Kiambu Road. And I think that's a good story in terms of taking the conversation forward. But having said that, I think what we need to do going forward is to encourage you to continue with the county forums, because actually looking at the way those stories are told when you go to these specific counties, I think there is a greater emphasis on what is happening there. There is a greater emphasis in terms of relooking at what exactly is working and what is not working. I think that is the way to go. But going forward again, in terms of your reportage on devolution, I think we must make a deliberate effort in terms of dedicating time to look at what has worked. Do we actually need an audit of the entire constitution or devolution so far, 6 years down the line? What has worked, what hasn't worked, and how can we improve?
All right, this would be a good time to bring in our reporter, Elvis Costa. And the reason we have Elvis Costa is that he is one of our reporters, but based in the county, and he is in Eldoret. And welcome aboard, Elvis. Just to first of all get your experience, you're one who works in the county, and what has your experience been so far being based in the county in terms of reportage and getting stories out of the county?
Thank you, Mike. Coming from a region where we cover 6 counties, this is Turkana, West Pokot, Trans Nzoia, Elgeyo Marakwet County, Nandi, and also Uasin Gishu. I think we've met the expectations of Uasin Gishu County residents in terms of coverage, but also we need to draw a clear line between a negative story and a positive story. I can give you an example of a county that I cannot mention because of security reasons, where we are doing the 47 days of accountability. So as KTN, we highlighted a story on a market that is in a place along the Kerio Valley, and unfortunately this did not go well with the executive. Now, in terms of meeting the expectations of citizens, I think you have done that. But I think also you need to draw a clear line between a negative story and a positive story. So when the story aired, I received this call from the executive saying that maybe I had been paid by a certain powerful individual, maybe to paint him in a bad light. But unfortunately, we have also been having challenges in accessing to information. I think also the executive, let's say maybe the county assembly and the executive should also give us access to information. Let's say there's a budget that is being debated in the county assembly of Uasin Gishu County. You may go to the county assembly, but you're told this report is confidential, so you're not able to access the story. Mm-hmm. Another thing is that I think we do well in highlighting human interest stories. Of course, we have success stories in the region. Like, for example, I can give you an example where we used to have deplorable infrastructural condition, where at least for the first time since Kenya got its devolution, at least we've been able also to highlight that there've been improved medical facilities, good roads, unlike the past when devolution had not been stipulated in the Kenyan Constitution. So as a reporter working in the region, I think we've been experiencing challenges when it's come to highlighting negative stories. But again, these are stories that go well with Mwananchi.
Okay, and Elvis Costa, you've brought in something interesting there in terms of the executive, and maybe take us through some of the challenges you may be facing as a reporter there, especially when you highlight the negative, because then, like you've mentioned, you may be thought by some to have been paid, because there's the politics that plays around certain regions where if you told a story, despite the fact that it's a true story, the people within the area that you're covering might feel that maybe you've been paid to just show them in bad light.
Okay, Ben, there's also this issue of dangling carrots. Like, for example, I can say you're told to do a story, a negative story in a county like Uasin Gishu County, but then at the end of the day, we have also the commercial department where the executive has already placed an advertisement, maybe in your newspaper or the television. Now, you'll be forced to not to highlight that story because maybe the advertisement placed on your newspaper won't go well with the executive.